By the time she started quoting Shakespeare backward, I knew it wasn't a stroke. I just didn't know it was rabies. The ER was a war zone that Tuesday. Rural Vermont hospitals like ours, tucked in the shadow of the Green Mountains, don't get the luxury of quiet nights. Car accidents, farm injuries, and the occasional hiker lost to hypothermia keep us sharp. But Eleanor Winslow, Ellie, as her chart called her, came in like a ghost, her frail body slumped in a wheelchair, her silver hair matted with sweat. She was 73, a retired librarian from Brattleboro, and she was burning up. Fever of 103.2, heart rate skittering at 120. Her daughter, Claire, a polished tech exec in her 40s, hovered beside her, clutching a Prada bag like it could shield her from the truth. "She's been confused for days," Claire said, her voice tight. "Forgetting names, mixing up words. Last night, she called me Margaret. That's not my name. Then this morning, she was screaming about birds in her walls. I thought, maybe a stroke." I nodded, my pen scratching notes. Stroke was plausible. So was sepsis, given the fever, or early Alzheimer's, though the hallucinations felt too sudden. Helly's eyes, glassy and darting, locked onto mine for a split second. "The squirrel," she whispered, her voice a rasp. "It knew my name." I froze. "Squirrel." Claire shook her head, embarrassed. "She's been saying weird things. Ignore it." But I couldn't, not entirely. Something about the way Ellie said it, half poetry, half terror, lodged in my brain. I'm Dr. Samuel Kessler, head of infectious diseases at Green Valley Medical Center. I've seen my share of mysteries. A farmer with leptospirosis from contaminated water, a kid with Lyme disease mimicking leukemia. But I've also seen mistakes. 10 years ago, I lost a patient, a 19-year-old girl, to a misdiagnosed fungal infection. Her name was Lily, and her face still haunts my dreams. I swore I'd never miss a clue again. "Let's get her to CT," I told Janine, our head nurse. Janine, a no-nonsense woman with a buzz cut and a heart bigger than she'd admit, raised an eyebrow. "You sure? She's stable-ish. Radiology's backed up." "Stable-ish isn't stable," I said. "And I don't like her vitals." The CT came back clean. No bleed, no mass. Blood work showed elevated white cells, but nothing screamed infection. Her EEG was a mess, spikes and waves like a storm at sea. But that could mean anything. Epilepsy, encephalopathy, or just her fever frying her circuits. I ordered broad-spectrum antibiotics and an MRI for the morning. Claire, pacing the hall, cornered me. "Is it dementia? She's been forgetting things for months. Little stuff, like where she parked her car." "Could be," I said, hedging. "But the fever and hallucinations don't fit neatly. We'll know more tomorrow." That night, I couldn't sleep. Ellie's whisper, "The squirrel, it knew my name," kept circling. I saw her chart in my mind. No recent travel, no pets, no obvious exposures. Just a quiet life in a cedar-shingled cottage, feeding birds and reading by her fireplace. But squirrels. I treated dozens of animal bites. Dogs, cats, even a raccoon once. Never a squirrel. Statistically, they're low risk for rabies. Only 1 in 100 tests positive. And even then, transmission to humans is a freak event. But that one is all it takes. The next morning, Ellie was worse. She was thrashing in her restraints, her voice a guttural mix of moans and fragmented poetry. "To be or not to be." She slurred, then backward. "Be not to be or to." Her hands clawed the air, as if fighting off invisible birds. Claire was sobbing in the corner, her phone forgotten on the floor. Janine pulled me aside. "Sam, this isn't Alzheimer's. She's deteriorating too fast." I agreed. But what was it? Meningitis? Encephalitis? A rare prion disease like Creutzfeldt-Jakob? I ordered a lumbar puncture to test her spinal fluid. The results were murky. Elevated protein. No clear viral markers. I called in a neurologist, Dr. Patel, who leaned toward psychosis triggered by an underlying infection. Could be autoimmune, he said. Limbic encephalitis. Let's try steroids. I hesitated. Steroids could mask an infection, make things worse. But Patel was adamant, and I was outranked. We started prednisone. By evening, Ellie was calmer, but her fever spiked to 104. Her pupils were uneven, one dilated like a black moon. I paged Patel. This isn't working, I said. We're missing something. He sighed through the phone. Sam, she's 73. Sometimes the body just breaks. I wanted to scream. Ellie wasn't just breaking. Her body was screaming for answers, and we were deaf. I went back to her room, sat by her bed. Her chart said she'd been a librarian for 40 years, loved poetry and birds. I pictured her in the foggy Vermont woods, tossing seeds to chickadees, her scarf fluttering in the breeze. Then I saw it, a small crescent-shaped scab on her left forearm, half hidden by her hospital gown. It was faint, healed over, maybe 3 weeks old. A bite. Janine. I called. She was at the nurse's station, sipping coffee. Did you see this mark? She frowned, leaned in. Looks like a bite. Dog. Cat. Ellie mentioned a squirrel, I said. Janine snorted. A squirrel? Come on, Sam. Rabies? That's a stretch. But my pulse was racing. Rabies. The word felt like a blade. It's rare. Only a handful of cases in the U.S. each year. Most come from bats, sometimes dogs or raccoons. Squirrels. Almost unheard of. But not impossible. Rabies is a bullet in slow motion. The virus creeps along nerve fibers, silent for weeks or months, until it hits the brain. Then it's chaos. Fever, confusion, hallucinations, hydrophobia. Furious rabies makes you rage. Paralytic rabies shuts you down. Either way, once symptoms start, it's almost always fatal. I ordered an urgent consult with a virologist, Dr. Lena Voss, from Dartmouth. She wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. In the meantime, I dug into Ellie's history. Claire, red-eyed, told me her mom loved her daily walks in the state forest. She'd feed the birds, squirrels, anything that moved. Said it kept her young. Did she ever mention a bite? I asked. Claire shook her head. No. But maybe a month ago, she said a squirrel acted weird, jumped on her arm, then ran off. She laughed it off. My stomach sank. A month. Rabies incubation can be 20 to 90 days. We were in the window. That night, I sat in my office, staring at a photo of Lily, my lost patient. I'd missed her diagnosis because I trusted the textbook over my gut. Not again. I pulled up rabies protocols. The Milwaukee Protocol. An experimental treatment involving a coma and antivirals. Had saved a few patients, but it was controversial. Most experts called it a Hail Mary, with a success rate below 10%. Still, it was something. If Ellie had rabies, we'd need to act fast. But first, we needed proof. Rabies tests are tricky. Skin biopsies, saliva, spinal fluid. None are 100% reliable until the virus is rampant. And by then, it's too late. Underscore 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 underscore. The fog in the Vermont woods was thick the next morning, curling around the hospital like a shroud. Ellie was slipping. Her speech was gone, replaced by guttural moans. She'd started choking on water, her throat spasming at the sight of it. Classic hydrophobia. I'd seen it once, in a med school case study, and it chilled me then. Now, it was real. Dr. Voss arrived at noon, her face grim. She reviewed the chart, examined the bite mark. It's possible, she said. Squirrel rabies is rare, but not zero. We need a skin biopsy from the nape of her neck, near the brain, and saliva samples. If it's rabies, the virus will show. The biopsy was agonizing to watch. Ellie, sedated but restless, twitched as we shaved a patch of her neck. Claire stood outside, her face pressed to the glass door. Janine whispered, "Sam, if this is rabies, what's the plan?" "Milwaukee Protocol," I said. "It's our only shot." Janine's eyes widened. "That's experimental. The board won't like it." "Screw the board," I snapped. Then softer, "She's dying, Janine. We have to try." The hospital administrator, Mr. Hargrove, was less sympathetic. "Dr. Kessler, we're overcrowded. If this is a long shot, we need that bed." "She's not a bed," I said. "She's a patient." He sighed. "Get your tests. But if it's negative, we reassess." The tests took 48 hours. 2 days of watching Ellie fade, her body a battleground. Claire read to her, Emily Dickinson, her mom's favorite. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The words hung in the air, heavy as the fog outside. On Thursday, the results came. Positive. Rabies virus in her saliva and skin. Dr. Voss called me at 3 a.m. "It's confirmed, Sam. I'm sorry." I stood in the hall, my knees weak. Rabies. We'd missed it for weeks. I'd missed it. I saw Lily's face again, her eyes pleading. "Not again." Underscore 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 underscore. We started the Milwaukee Protocol that night. It was a gamble. Induce a coma, pump her with ketamine and antivirals, hope her immune system could fight the virus before her brain shut down. The odds were brutal. Less than 10% survival. But doing nothing meant certain death. Claire signed the consent forms, her hands shaking. "Save her," she whispered. "Please." I didn't promise. I couldn't. But I swore I'd fight. The IQ was a blur of monitors and tubes. Ellie's chest rose and fell with the ventilator, her face serene but empty. I sat by her bed, rereading her chart, searching for anything we'd missed. A month ago, she was feeding birds in the forest, her life simple and full. Now she was here, her brain under siege by a virus we barely understood. Janine brought me coffee at dawn. "You okay, Sam?" "No," I said, "but she's not dying on my watch." Flashbacks hit me hard that week. I saw Ellie's cottage in my mind, her garden overgrown with asters, her teacup cold on the table as hallucinations took hold. I saw her in the woods, the squirrel twitching in the branches, its eyes too bright, its teeth sinking into her arm. She'd laughed it off, hadn't told a soul. If she'd come to us then, we could have given her the vaccine, the immunoglobulin. Rabies is preventable, until it isn't. By day 3 of the protocol, Ellie's vitals stabilized, but her EEG was flatlining. The virus was winning. Claire sat by her mom, holding her hand, whispering stories of their summers at Lake Champlain. "You taught me to swim, Mom. You can fight this." I wanted to believe her, but rabies doesn't negotiate. Underscore 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 underscore. Dr. Voss stayed on, consulting remotely. She warned me the protocol could take weeks with no guarantee. The virus is in her brain, Sam. Even if she wakes, she might not be her. I nodded, my throat tight. I'd read the studies. Survivors often faced severe neurological damage. But I couldn't give up. Not yet. Hargrove kept circling, pressuring me to reallocate resources. I ignored him. Janine, bless her, ran interference, fudging paperwork to keep Ellie's bed secure. "You owe me, Sam," she said, half smiling. On day 5, Ellie seized. Her body arched off the bed, monitors screaming. We dosed her with lorazepam, but the damage was done. Her brain was swelling, the virus tearing through her neurons. I called Voss. "We're losing her." She was quiet for a long moment. "You did everything you could." It wasn't enough. Underscore 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 underscore. Claire was there when we turned off the ventilator. Ellie's breathing slowed, then stopped. The room was silent, save for Claire's sobs. I stood by the door, my hands useless. "We were too late," I whispered. Claire didn't hear me. She held her mom's hand, her face crumpled. "I should have listened. She said she felt off weeks ago. I thought it was just age." I wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, but the word stuck. It was mine. I'd seen the bite mark, heard the squirrel comment, and still let the system, tests, protocols, skepticism, slow me down. After the funeral, I drove to Ellie's cottage. Her garden was wild now, asters choking the path. A squirrel darted across the lawn, pausing to stare at me. I froze, my heart pounding. It was just a squirrel. But for a moment, I saw Ellie's eyes in its gaze, pleading, accusing. Underscore 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 underscore. Rabies waits. It hides in plain sight, in a twitchy squirrel, a forgotten bite. By the time you see it, it's too late. If someone you love gets bitten, even by something small, don't wait. Get them to a doctor. Get the vaccine. Because once the virus wakes, it doesn't stop. I keep Ellie's chart on my desk, a reminder. Lily's photo is next to it. I failed them both, but I won't fail again. Rural hospitals like ours are stretched thin, underfunded, overlooked. We need better training, faster tests, more trust in our instincts. Ellie deserved better. We all do. The fog clung to the hospital windows like a second skin, blurring the line between the world outside and the chaos within. Ellie Winslow's case had become my obsession, a puzzle I couldn't walk away from. I'd been a doctor for 25 years, seen diseases that would make your skin crawl, but nothing prepared me for this. Rabies. The word was a splinter in my mind, sharp and unyielding. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Ellie, quoting Shakespeare backward, her frail hands clawing at ghosts only she could see. It was day 6 in the ICU, and the Milwaukee Protocol was our last stand. Ellie lay in a medically induced coma, her chest rising and falling with the hiss of the ventilator. The monitors blinked their relentless rhythm. Heart rate 82, oxygen sat 94%, intracranial pressure creeping up. Too high. The virus was burrowing deeper, shredding her neurons like paper. I adjusted her ketamine drip, my hand steady but my mind racing. We were fighting a war we might already have lost. Claire, Ellie's daughter, hadn't left her side. She sat in a plastic chair, her tailored blazer wrinkled, her eyes hollow. She'd stopped asking if her mom would wake up. Instead, she read aloud from a worn copy of the complete poems of Emily Dickinson, her voice soft but steady. "Hope is the thing with feathers," she read, then paused, her thumb tracing the page. She used to recite this to me when I was scared. Said it was her armor. I nodded, my throat tight. I wanted to tell her we were doing everything we could, but the words felt hollow. Everything wasn't enough. Not when the odds were stacked against us. The Milwaukee Protocol, our Hail Mary, had saved maybe a dozen people worldwide since it was first tried in 2004. It was a brutal regimen: coma, antivirals, sedatives, and a prayer that the patient's immune system could outrun the virus. Most didn't. The studies I'd read late at night, my laptop glowing in the dark, were grim. 90% failure rate, survivors often left with profound disabilities. But doing nothing meant Ellie would die. So we fought. Janine, our head nurse, slipped into the room with fresh IV bags. "Sam, you look like hell," she said, her voice low. "When's the last time you slept?" "Sleep's overrated," I muttered, checking Ellie's chart. Her labs were a mess. Liver enzymes climbing, kidneys struggling. The virus wasn't just in her brain. It was a systemic assault. I scribbled orders for more fluids, adjusted her amantadine dose. Janine raised an eyebrow, but didn't argue. She'd seen me like this before, 10 years ago with Lily. Lily. Her name was a scar. A 19-year-old college freshman who came in with a fever and a cough. We thought it was pneumonia. Treated her with antibiotics, sent her home. 2 days later, she was back, seizing, her lungs drowning in fungus we hadn't caught. Aspergillus. Rare, aggressive, missed. She died on my watch, her parents sobbing as I stood there, useless. I'd promised myself I'd never miss a diagnosis again. But here I was, staring at Ellie, wondering if I'd failed her too. "Sam," Janine said, snapping me back. "Voss called. She wants to talk." Dr. Lena Voss, the virologist from Dartmouth, was our lifeline. She'd confirmed Ellie's rabies diagnosis 3 days ago, her voice calm but heavy over the phone. I dialed her from the nurse's station, the receiver cold against my ear. "Lena, what's up?" "Sam, I've been reviewing the data," she said. "Ellie's case is textbook furious rabies. Agitation, hallucinations, hydrophobia. But the squirrel angle, it's bothering me. Squirrels are low-risk vectors. I checked CDC records. Only 0.01% of squirrel bites lead to rabies transmission. We're in uncharted territory." "Uncharted or not, she's got it," I said. "The biopsy was positive." "I know, but we need to understand how. If there's a reservoir in the local squirrel population, we need to alert public health. I'm sending a team to trap animals near her home. Can you get me her exact walking routes?" I glanced at Claire, still reading to her mom. "I'll ask her daughter. Anything else?" Voss hesitated. "The protocol. Sam, you know the odds. If her EEG doesn't improve soon, you need to prepare Claire for the worst." My jaw tightened. "Not yet, Lena. She's stable." "Stable isn't enough," she said softly. "Rabies doesn't play fair." I hung up, my hands shaking. Voss was right, but I couldn't face it. Not yet. I went back to Ellie's room, where Claire was closing the poetry book. "Dr. Kessler," she said, her voice raw. "Mom loved the forest behind her house, said it was her church. Can you make sure she sees it again?" I swallowed hard. "We're trying, Claire. Can you tell me where she walked? The exact paths?" She nodded, pulling up a map on her phone. "Here, the trails off Route 9. She went every morning, fed the birds, the squirrels. Said they were her friends." Friends. The word twisted in my gut. One of those friends had killed her. Underscore 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 underscore. That afternoon, I drove to Ellie's cottage. I needed to see it, to understand. The fog was thicker here, the air heavy with pine and damp earth. Her home was a storybook picture. Cedar shingles, a sagging porch, a garden bursting with asters and goldenrod. Bird feeders hung from every tree, swaying in the breeze. I stood in her backyard, picturing her scattering seeds, her scarf bright against the gray dawn. A squirrel skittered across the grass, pausing to stare at me. Its eyes were too bright, its movements jerky. I stepped back, my heart pounding. Just a squirrel. But for a moment, I saw Ellie's arm, the crescent scab, the virus slipping silently into her blood. Back at the hospital, Hargrove, the administrator, was waiting. "Dr. Kessler, we need to talk," he said, his tie too tight, his face pinched. "This patient, Winslow, she's tying up an ICU bed. The protocol you're using is experimental, unproven. We're over capacity. She's dying," I said, my voice low. "Rabies doesn't wait for bed assignments." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I get it, Sam, but the board's breathing down my neck. If she doesn't improve in 48 hours, we need to discuss options." "Options?" I snapped. "You mean pulling the plug?" "I mean prioritizing resources," he said, his eyes cold. "Do your job. Get me results." I walked away before I said something I'd regret. Hargrove didn't get it. He saw numbers, beds, budgets. I saw Ellie, her poetry, her birds, her life. I saw Lily, too, her face blurring with Ellie's in my mind. Underscore 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 underscore. By day 8, Ellie's condition was a tightrope. Her vitals held, but her brain activity was a flat line with occasional flickers. The virus was relentless, chewing through her nervous system. Rabies is a master of stealth. It travels along peripheral nerves at a crawl -1 to 2 centimeters a day, until it reaches the spinal cord, then the brain. Once there, it triggers inflammation, excitotoxicity, a cascade of chaos. Furious rabies, like Ellie's, manifests as agitation, hallucinations, muscle spasms. Paralytic rabies, rarer, mimics Guillain-Barré, locking you in your body. Either way, the end is the same unless you catch it before symptoms start. We hadn't caught it. Ellie hadn't told anyone about the bite, hadn't sought help. A month ago, a simple vaccine and immunoglobulin shot could have stopped the virus cold. Now we were chasing a ghost. Janine found me in the break room, staring at a cold cup of coffee. "Sam, you need to eat," she said, sliding a sandwich across the table. "You're no good to her if you collapse." "I missed it, Janine," I said, my voice barely a whisper. The bite mark. The squirrel comment. I should have pushed harder. She sat across from me, her eyes soft. "You're pushing now. That's what matters." But it didn't feel like enough. I kept replaying the first day. Ellie's glassy eyes, her whispered, "The squirrel knew my name." I dismissed it as delirium. Claire had too. We'd all missed the truth, and now Ellie was paying the price. Claire was different now, her corporate armor gone. She spent hours by her mom's bed, talking about their past. Summers at Lake Champlain. Ellie teaching her to braid daisies. The time they stayed up all night watching a meteor shower. She was my rock. Claire said, her voice breaking, "I was so busy with work, I didn't see her slipping." She said she felt off weeks ago, tired, anxious. I thought it was just getting old. I nodded, my chest tight. Rabies is sneaky. It starts subtle. Fatigue, irritability, maybe a tingle at the bite site. By the time the big symptoms hit, it's too late. "Too late," she echoed, her eyes on her mom. I should have brought her in sooner. You couldn't know, I said, but the words felt empty. I couldn't know either, and yet here we were. That night, I sat in my office, pulling up old rabies cases. The Milwaukee Protocol was born from desperation. A Wisconsin teen, bitten by a bat in 2004, survived after doctors put her in a coma and flooded her system with antivirals. It was a miracle, but a flawed one. Subsequent attempts often failed, leaving patients vegetative or dead. Critics called it unethical, a false hope. Supporters argued it was better than nothing. I didn't care about the debate. I cared about Ellie. Her chart was a map of despair. EEG flat, ICP still high, organs straining. But there were glimmers. Her heart rate steady, her lungs clear. I clung to those, like a drowning man to driftwood. I saw her in my mind, standing in her garden, her scarf bright against the fog. She deserved a chance. Underscore 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 underscore. The next morning, Voss's team sent a report. 3 squirrels trapped near Ellie's home tested positive for rabies. A cluster. Rare, but not impossible. The virus likely spread from bats or raccoons, a silent epidemic in the forest. Public Health issued a warning, urging locals to vaccinate pets, avoid wildlife. Too late for Ellie. I showed the report to Claire. This is why. I said, it wasn't random. The forest she loved. It betrayed her. Claire's eyes filled. She'd still go back. That's who she was. I nodded, my throat tight. Ellie's love for her birds, her squirrels, had been her undoing. And yet, I couldn't hate her for it. She'd lived her life fully, fiercely, until a single moment, a twitchy squirrel, a fleeting bite, changed everything. The IQ was a cathedral of beeps and whispers. Ellie Winslow, its silent saint. Day 10 of the Milwaukee Protocol, and we were losing ground. Her intracranial pressure was a ticking bomb, her EEG a flatline with cruel flickers of hope. The rabies virus was a thief, stealing her piece by piece, her poetry, her laughter, her light. I stood by her bed, adjusting her ventilator settings, my hand steady but my heart a storm. I was Dr. Samuel Kessler, and I was failing her. Claire hadn't left the hospital in days. Her laptop, once glued to her side, sat untouched in the corner, its screen dark. She traded her tech exec polish for a borrowed sweatshirt and unwashed hair, her eyes red from crying and not sleeping. She held her mom's hand, her thumb tracing the veins under Ellie's paper-thin skin. She used to knit me scarves, Claire said, her voice barely audible. Every winter, a new one. Blue, green, red. I never wore them. Too itchy. Now I'd give anything to feel that itch. I nodded, my throat tight. I wanted to tell her to keep talking, to fill the room with memories, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I checked Ellie's chart for the 100th time, searching for a lifeline. Her labs were a battlefield. Kidneys faltering, liver enzymes spiking, white cells in chaos. The antivirals, amantadine, ribavirin, were fighting, but the virus was a juggernaut. Rabies doesn't just infect. It invades, rewires, destroys. It's a RNA virus, a tiny string of code that hijacks your neurons, turning your brain against itself. Once it hits the central nervous system, it's a death sentence unless you catch it early. We hadn't. Janine slipped in, her buzz cut catching the fluorescent light. "Sam, you've got a visitor," she said. "Hargrove's circling again." And Voss sent new data. I sighed, rubbing my eyes. Hargrove, the hospital administrator, was a vulture in a suit, always sniffing for beds to clear. I'd been dodging him, but I couldn't forever. What's Voss got? I asked. Squirrel clusters bigger than we thought, Janine said, handing me a tablet. 6 more positives in the forest. Health department's freaking out. I scanned the report. The rabies outbreak in the state forest was unprecedented. -10 squirrels, 2 raccoons, all within a 5-mile radius of Ellie's cottage. The virus was spreading, a silent wildfire in the woods she loved. I saw her in my mind, standing in her garden, tossing seeds to chickadees, unaware of the danger in the branches. A month ago, she'd laughed off a squirrel bite. Now she was here, her life hanging by a thread. Sam, Janine said, softer now. You need to talk to Claire. She deserves to know. It's not looking good. I looked at Ellie, her face serene under the sedation. Claire was humming now, a lullaby I didn't recognize, her hand still clutching her mom's. Not yet, I said. She's not giving up. Neither am I. Janine didn't argue, but her eyes said enough. She'd seen me like this before, with Lily. She knew how it ended. Underscore 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 underscore. Hargrove caught me in the hall, his clipboard a weapon. Dr. Kessler, we need to discuss bed allocation, he said, his voice clipped. Your patient's been in ICU for over a week, with no significant improvement. We've got trauma cases piling up. She's got rabies, I said, my voice low. You want to pull the plug on a woman fighting for her life. I want to save the most lives possible, he said, his eyes narrowing. This protocol of yours, it's experimental. The literature says it fails more than it succeeds. We're not a research hospital, Sam. I stepped closer, my voice ablade. She's not a statistic. She's a person. And I'm not giving up until I have to. He sighed, adjusting his tie. You've got 72 hours. Show me progress, or we reassess. I walked away, my fists clenched. Hargrove didn't see Ellie's garden, her scarves, her poetry. He saw a bed number, a budget line. I saw a woman who trusted us to save her. I saw Lily, too, her face a ghost in every chart I read. Underscore 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 underscore. Dr. Voss's new data was a gut punch. The squirrel cluster wasn't just a fluke, it was a warning. Rabies in wildlife is cyclic, spiking every few years when populations boom or food dwindles. Vermont's wet spring had bred a perfect storm. Overcrowded forests, stressed animals, and a virus-jumping species. Squirrels, usually low risk, were now carriers. The CDC was scrambling, vaccinating pets, warning hikers. But for Ellie, it was too late. I called Voss, my phone pressed to my ear as I paced the hospital roof, the fog cold against my skin. Lena, what's the play? I asked. Her EEG's flat, but she's still fighting. Any new tricks? Voss's voice was heavy. Sam, the protocol's maxed out. You're doing everything right. Ketamine, antivirals, supportive care. But rabies, it's a beast. If her brain swelling doesn't ease, you're looking at herniation. Days, maybe hours. My stomach dropped. There's got to be something. A new drug. A trial. Sam, she cut in, gentle but firm. You're not God. You're a doctor. Sometimes that means letting go. I hung up, my hand shaking. Letting go wasn't in my DNA. Not after Lily. Not after 25 years of fighting diseases that didn't play fair. I went back to Ellie's room, where Claire was sleeping in her chair, the poetry book open on her lap. Ellie's ventilator hissed, a metronome of hope and despair. I sat by her bed, my eyes on the bite mark, now a faint scar under the hospital lights. Such a small thing, a crescent of betrayal. It had changed everything. Underscore 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 underscore. Flashbacks came unbidden now, sharp and vivid. I saw Ellie in her cottage, her fireplace crackling, a cup of chamomile tea cooling on the table. She was reading Dickinson, her lips moving silently, her world small but full. Then the woods, the fog, the squirrel, its eyes too bright, its teeth a flash of pain. She'd brushed it off, gone home, lived her life. But the virus was already moving, a silent assassin in her nerves. By the time she felt off, tired, anxious, the bite site tingling, it was too late. The virus had reached her brain, triggering the cascade. Fever, confusion, hallucinations. She'd quoted Shakespeare backward, her mind a kaleidoscope of poetry and terror, and we'd missed it. I blamed myself, but I wasn't alone. Claire had dismissed her mom's early symptoms, chalking them up to age. The ER team had leaned toward stroke, then sepsis, then psychosis. Even Pottle, the neurologist, had pushed steroids, masking the truth. The system, overworked, underfunded, skeptical of zebras like rabies, had failed her. Rural hospitals like ours weren't built for this. We were built for broken bones, heart attacks, the occasional overdose. Not a virus so rare it felt like a myth. Janine found me at midnight, slumped in a chair by Ellie's bed. "Sam, go home," she said. "You're no good to her like this." "I can't," I said, my voice raw. "I keep seeing Lily. I keep seeing what I missed." She sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "You're not missing this one. You're fighting harder than anyone, but you can't save them all." I wanted to argue, but the words died. She was right. I couldn't save them all. But I could save Ellie. I had to. Underscore 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 underscore. Day 11 brought a flicker of hope. Ellie's intracranial pressure dropped slightly, her heart rate steady. Her EEG showed a faint spike, a whisper of brain activity. It wasn't much, but it was something. I showed the data to Claire, my voice cautious. "It's not a win, but it's a step. She's still in there, fighting." Claire's eyes lit up, the first spark I'd seen in days. "She's tough," she said. "Always was. When I was a kid, she'd carry me through snowdrifts to get to school. Said nothing could stop her." I smiled, picturing Ellie, her scarf bright against the Vermont winter. "Let's keep fighting with her," I said. But the hope was fragile. By evening, her kidneys were failing. Her urine output a trickle. We started dialysis, another layer of machines to keep her alive. Hargrove sent an email, his words cold. "Reassess by 800 tomorrow. Bed needed for incoming trauma." I deleted it, my jaw tight. He could wait. Underscore 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 underscore. Claire's stories kept me grounded. She told me about Ellie's library days, how she'd read to kids in a dragon costume, her voice booming through the stacks. "She made books magic," Claire said. "Every kid in town loved her." I was jealous, sometimes. She gave them so much of herself. I nodded, my eyes on Ellie's face. She's giving now, too. Fighting this thing. For you. Claire's eyes filled. I should have visited more. I was always so busy. Meetings, flights, deadlines. I thought there'd be time. There's still time, I said, but the lie burned my tongue. Time was slipping, and we both knew it. That night, I dreamed of the forest. Ellie was there, her scarf red against the fog, her hands full of seeds. Squirrels circled her, their eyes glowing, their teeth bared. She smiled, unafraid, and tossed the seeds. The squirrels lunged, and I woke, my heart pounding, the hospital's hum pulling me back. The hospital was a labyrinth of light and shadow, each beep a reminder of the line between life and death. Ellie Winslow was slipping, and I was running out of ways to hold her here. Day 13 of the Milwaukee Protocol, and the ICU felt like a battlefield. Ellie its only soldier. Her body was a war zone, kidneys on dialysis, liver failing, brain swollen against her skull. The rabies virus was relentless, a microscopic predator we couldn't outrun. I stood by her bed, my hands useless, my mind screaming for answers. I was Dr. Samuel Kessler, and I was losing her. Claire was a ghost now, her face hollow, her voice a whisper. She'd stopped reading poetry, stopped humming. Instead, she sat in silence, her hand on her mom's, her eyes fixed on the monitors as if she could will them to change. She's not giving up, Claire said, more to herself than me. She never did. I nodded, checking Ellie's chart. Her intracranial pressure was climbing again, her EEG a flat line with no new spikes. The faint hope we'd seen yesterday was gone, snuffed out by the virus's march. Rabies is a cruel thief. It steals your mind first, then your body, leaving nothing but a shell. Ellie's shell was still here, her chest rising with the ventilator, but her poetry, her laughter, her light, they were fading. Janine slipped in, her face grim. Sam Hargrove's on the warpath, she said. He's got a board meeting in an hour, wants a decision on Ellie. Let him try, I snapped, my voice sharper than I meant. She's not a line item. Janine didn't flinch. She'd seen me like this, teetering on the edge, my guilt and grief a tangled mess. I've got your back, she said, but you need to talk to Claire. She needs to know. It's close. My stomach twisted. Claire deserved the truth, but I wasn't ready to face it myself. I looked at Ellie, her face serene under the sedation, the bite mark on her arm, a faint accusation. A month ago, she was feeding squirrels in the foggy Vermont woods, her life simple and full. Now she was here, her brain a battleground, her daughter a wreck. And I was the doctor who'd missed it. Underscore 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 underscore. Hargrove cornered me in the hall, his clipboard a shield. Dr. Kessler, we're out of time, he said, his voice cold. Your patient's been in ICU for 2 weeks. No improvement. We've got a multi-car pileup coming in. 3 critical. We need that bed. She's fighting rabies, I said, my voice low. You want to pull the plug because of a car crash. I want to save lives, he said, his eyes narrowing. This protocol is a long shot, and you know it. The data's clear, 90% failure rate. You're tying up resources for a miracle that's not coming. I stepped closer, my voice ablade. She's a person, not a resource, and I'm not giving up until she does. He sighed, his jaw tight. You've got it until tomorrow morning. Show me progress, or I go to the board. I walked away, my heart pounding. Hargrove didn't see Ellie's garden, her scarves, her birds. He saw numbers, budgets, beds. I saw a woman who'd trusted us, who'd loved fiercely, who deserved a chance. I saw Lily too, her face a ghost in every corner of this hospital. Underscore 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 underscore. Dr. Voss called at noon, her voice heavy. Sam, I've got the latest from the CDC, she said. The squirrel cluster's spreading. They found rabies in chipmunks now, 2 miles from Ellie's place. This is bigger than we thought. My stomach sank. A reservoir. Looks like it, she said. Bats are the likely source, spreading to small mammals. The forest's a hot zone. Public health's closing trails, vaccinating anything with fur. But for Ellie, Sam, her latest labs aren't good. Her kidneys are shot, her brain's swelling. The protocol's not working. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. There's got to be something. A new antiviral, a tweak. Sam, she cut in, gentle but firm. You're doing everything humanly possible. But rabies, it's a wall. Sometimes you can't climb it. I hung up, my hands shaking. Voss was right, but I couldn't accept it. Not yet. I went to the lab, where Ellie's viral cultures sat under blue light, glowing like a cruel constellation. The virus was there, unmistakable, bullet-shaped particles, stained and magnified. A silent killer we couldn't stop. I stared at them, my mind racing. Rabies is a RNA virus, a single strand of code that hijacks your neurons, spreading from nerve to nerve until it owns you. It's slow at first, -1 to 2 centimeters a day. Then explosive, triggering inflammation, spasms, death. We'd caught it too late, and now Ellie was paying the price. Underscore 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 underscore. Claire was awake when I got back, her eyes red but sharp. Dr. Kessler, she said, her voice steady. Tell me the truth. Is she going to make it? I sat across from her, my hands clasped. Claire, the virus is winning, I said, each word a weight. Her brain's under too much pressure, her organs are failing. The protocol. It's not enough. Her face crumpled, but she didn't cry. How long? Days, I said. Maybe less. She nodded, her hand tightening on her mom's. Can she hear me? I think so, I said. Talk to her. Tell her everything. Claire started talking, her voice soft but fierce. She told Ellie about their summers at Lake Champlain, how Ellie taught her to skip stones, how they'd laughed until their sides hurt. She talked about the library, the dragon costume, the scarves. You were the best mom, she said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I stepped out, my eyes burning. Claire deserved this moment, and I needed air. The hospital roof was cold, the fog a heavy blanket. I leaned against the railing, picturing Ellie in her woods, her scarf bright against the gray dawn. A squirrel had changed everything, a twitchy creature, a fleeting bite. She hadn't told anyone, hadn't thought it mattered. Now her life was a flicker on a monitor, and I was the doctor who couldn't save her. Janine found me at midnight, her face grim. Sam, Ellie's seizing again, she said. Bad. I ran to the ICU, where Ellie's body was arched off the bed, her muscles rigid, monitors screaming. We dosed her with lorazepam, then midazolam. But the seizures kept coming, a storm we couldn't stop. Her intracranial pressure spiked to 30 mmHg. Critical. The virus was tearing through her brain, causing edema, herniation. I ordered mannitol to reduce the swelling, my hands shaking. "Come on, Ellie," I whispered. "Fight." Claire was in the corner, her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice a plea. Her brain swelling. I said, my voice steady despite the chaos. "We're trying to bring it down." But we weren't winning. By 2 a.m., her pressure was 35 mmHg, her pupils fixed and dilated. The EEG was silent, a flat line with no hope. I called Voss, my voice raw. "Lena, we're losing her. What's left?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Sam, you've done everything. If her brain's gone, you need to let her go." I hung up, my knees weak. Letting go wasn't an option. Not yet. But Ellie's body was telling a different story, and I couldn't ignore it. Underscore 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 underscore. The next morning, Hargrove was back, his face a mask of false sympathy. "Dr. Kessler, the board's reviewed the case," he said. "Given the prognosis, we're recommending withdrawal of care. It's humane." "Humane?" I snapped. "You're talking about a woman who's been fighting for 2 weeks. She's not a dog you put down." He didn't flinch. "You've got until noon. Talk to the family, or I will." I walked away, my heart pounding. Claire was in Ellie's room, whispering to her mom, a photo album open on her lap. Pictures of Ellie, smiling at the library, gardening, holding a young Claire, spilled across the bed. "She was so alive," Claire said, her voice soft. "How did this happen?" "A bite," I said, my voice raw. "A squirrel, a month ago." She didn't tell anyone. The virus, it hid until it was too late. Claire's eyes filled. She loved those squirrels. Trusted them. I nodded, my throat tight. She trusted us too. Underscore 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 underscore. By 10 a.m., Ellie's vitals were crashing. Her blood pressure was 80/40ths, her oxygen sat 88%. The ventilator was doing all the work, but her body was giving up. I sat with Claire, my voice steady. "Claire, her brain's too damaged," I said. "The virus won. We can keep her on machines, but she's not coming back." Claire's face crumpled, but she nodded. "She wouldn't want this," she said. "Tubes, machines. She'd want to be in her garden." I swallowed hard. "We can make her comfortable. Let her go with you here, with love." She nodded, tears streaming. "Do it." Underscore 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 underscore. We turned off the ventilator at 11:47 a.m. Ellie's breathing slowed, her chest still for the first time in weeks. Claire held her hand, whispering, "It's okay, Mom. Go to your garden." I stood by the door, my hands useless, my eyes burning. "We were too late," I whispered, the words a knife. Claire didn't hear me. She was lost in her mom, in the life they'd shared. The room was silent, save for her sobs, the fog outside a heavy shroud. The fog never lifted that day, curling around Green Valley Medical Center like a mourner's veil. Ellie Winslow was gone, her bed empty, her chart closed. The IQ was quieter now, the monitors silent, but her absence was a scream in my chest. I was Dr. Samuel Kessler, and I'd failed her. Rabies had won, and I was left with the wreckage. Claire's sobs, Janine's quiet grief, my own guilt a weight I couldn't shake. Claire stayed in the room for hours, the photo album still open on her lap. Pictures of Ellie, laughing in her garden, reading to kids, braiding Claire's hair, were scattered across the bed, a mosaic of a life cut short. She was my home, Claire said, her voice raw. I don't know how to do this without her. I nodded, my throat tight. You'll carry her, I said. Every story, every scarf, every poem, she's in you. Claire's eyes met mine, red but steady. You fought for her. Thank you. The words should have helped, but they didn't. I'd fought, yes, but not hard enough. Not fast enough. I saw the bite mark in my mind, the crescent scab I'd almost missed. I heard Ellie's whisper. The squirrel knew my name, and my failure to listen. A month ago, a vaccine could have saved her. Now she was a memory, and I was the doctor who'd let her slip away. Underscore 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 underscore. Janine found me in my office, staring at Ellie's chart. Sam, go home, she said, her voice soft. You did everything you could. Did I? I asked, my voice raw. I missed the bite. I let Patel push steroids. I trusted the system, and it failed her. Janine sat across from me, her eyes steady. The system's broken, Sam. Rural hospitals like ours, we're stretched thin, underfunded, running on fumes. You fought harder than anyone. You gave her a chance. A chance wasn't enough. I said, my eyes on Lily's photo, next to Ellie's chart. 2 failures, 2 ghosts. I swore I'd never miss a diagnosis again. But I did. Janine leaned forward, her voice fierce. You didn't miss it. You found it. You fought for tests, for the protocol, for her life. Rabies is a bastard, Sam. It's not your fault. I wanted to believe her, but the guilt was a tide, pulling me under. I saw Ellie in her woods, her scarf bright against the fog, the squirrel's teeth a flash of betrayal. I saw her in the ER, quoting Shakespeare backward, her eyes pleading for answers. I saw Lily, too, her face blurring with Ellie's, a reminder of every mistake I'd made. Underscore 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 underscore. The funeral was small, held in a Brattleboro church with stained glass windows and creaking pews. Claire wore one of Ellie's scarves, blue and itchy, her face pale but composed. She spoke about her mom, her love for books, her laughter, her fierce heart. She taught me to see the world, Claire said, her voice steady. Even the small things, birds, squirrels, poems, I'll carry that forever. I stood in the back, my coat damp from the fog, my hands useless. After the service, Claire found me. Dr. Kessler, I'm donating her books to the library, she said. Her poetry, her Dickinson. It's what she'd want. I nodded, my throat tight. She'd love that. Claire hesitated, then hugged me, her arms fierce. You gave us time. I got to say goodbye. That matters. I hugged her back, my eyes burning. Time. It was all we had, and it was never enough. underscore 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 underscore. I drove to Ellie's cottage that evening. The fog thicker now, the woods a shadow. Her garden was wild, asters choking the path, bird feeders swaying in the breeze. A squirrel darted across the lawn, pausing to stare at me. Its eyes were bright, its movements jerky. I froze, my heart pounding. Just a squirrel. But for a moment, I saw Ellie's eyes in its gaze, pleading, accusing. I backed away, my breath shallow, and drove back to the hospital. The rabies cluster was still spreading, the CDC now trapping animals across the county. 12 squirrels, 4 raccoons, a fox, all positive. The forest was a minefield, and Ellie had walked through it, unarmed. Public health was scrambling, but the warnings felt hollow. Too late for her, too late for the next Ellie unless we change. Underscore 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 underscore. Rabies is a ghost, hiding in plain sight. It waits in a twitchy squirrel, a forgotten bite, a moment you brush off. It's rare, only a handful of U.S. cases each year, but it's 100% fatal once symptoms start. Squirrels are low risk, with only 0.01% carrying the virus, but that 0.01% is all it takes. Ellie's bite, a month ago, was a fluke, a 1 in a million tragedy, but it wasn't random. The forest she loved, the animals she trusted, betrayed her. And we, her doctors, her daughter, the system, failed to see it in time. The Milwaukee Protocol, our last hope, was a desperate gamble. Born in 2004 to save a Wisconsin teen, it saved maybe a dozen lives since, at a cost. Weeks in a coma, organs failing, families broken. Critics call it cruel, a false hope. Supporters call it a chance. For Ellie, it was neither, just a delay, a way to hold her here while we prayed for a miracle that didn't come. Rural hospitals like ours are the front line, but we're crumbling. Understaffed, underfunded, we're built for heart attacks and broken bones, not zebras like rabies. We need better training, faster tests, more trust in our instincts. Ellie deserved better. So do the patients who come next. Underscore 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 underscore. I keep Ellie's chart on my desk, next to Lily's photo. They're my reminders, my ghosts. I failed them, but I won't fail again. If someone you love gets bitten, even by something small, don't wait. Get them to a doctor. Get the vaccine, the immunoglobulin. Rabies waits, silent and patient, until it's too late. Then it doesn't. I see Ellie in my dreams, standing in her garden, her scarf bright against the fog. She's tossing seeds to the birds, her laughter soft. The squirrels are there, watching, their eyes too bright. I want to warn her, to pull her back, but she's already gone, her voice a whisper in the wind. To be or not to be. I wake, my heart pounding, and I know what I have to do. Fight. For her, for Lily, for every patient who trusts us. Because rabies doesn't play fair, but neither do I.